Hello, my name is Monica and welcome to our Zoom-in webinars. This one is about video meetings. I'm an organizational development consultant focusing on education and technology, and I represent an organization called Alpha Plus. It is a support agency for literacy and basic skills organizations across Ontario, and we provide free technology coaching services, face-to-face and online training, tech support, advisory and working groups, and research and resource gathering. Just to very quickly talk about Zoom and different tools we are using. Our recordings are done through Zoom sessions and very often allow us to create different slides and presentations. The session today is focusing on Zoom, Google Meet, Hangouts and Chat, Skype and Microsoft Teams meetings, as well as Jitsi, Whereby, and a few other tools we want to mention to you. The reason we are doing these sessions is we want to help during COVID-19. We have been receiving a lot of inquiries for different ideas, tips, training, and resources, and want to make sure that we provide that information to as many practitioners, instructors, and teachers as possible. This session is really a quick overview of some of the tools. We really encourage you to follow up with us by email or phone with additional questions so we can provide you with a more individualized demo, test, and instructions if you need so. It's also a chance to see how Zoom works and for us to consider how some of those tools can be useful to you as well. Finally, one of the tools and services we provide is our coaching services. So we want to make sure that you know about them and you know you can reach out to us at any time for any type of technical and coaching support. Before you decide on the video tools you may be using, we want you to think about different things ahead of time. The very first one is access to the internet and data usage. Anytime you organize video meetings and host video meetings, that takes up memory and internet. There's a big internet requirement for that. So if your plan is basic, you may be going through your data very quickly and having overage charges. I know that recently many providers are not charging those, but in a long term, it's very, very useful to think about that and take into consideration whether your colleagues, clients, or learners have access to proper internet and data package. The other consideration is digital skills and comfort with technology. Many of us may be exposed to those types of tools for the first time. We may not know how to use them, and we may be really be scared of them. So it's something to consider as you are launching and rolling out different tools. The technology training, the support that somebody may need, may need to be customized to the needs of your participants as well. The video and microphone settings is another section and option to consider. Not everyone has a camera or microphone built in. And if they don't, if they're connected externally, one thing to remember is that they may need to be checked in audio settings to make sure that they're connected properly, that the system is recognizing those external connectors and working properly with those as well. The type of device you use and the size of the screen is important. If you decide to use mobile devices, one thing to keep in mind is that if somebody is sharing a screen with you, potentially a desktop screen or a browser window and navigating through different features, on smaller devices, that screen is a lot smaller and it may be harder to see. The layout is also different on mobile devices and some of the functionalities change depending on what you're using. Finally, personal comfort and preferences for speaking and using videos can be very different. You may have participants who don't like to be on video, who they may prefer to have it turned off. So again, something to consider and be respectful of when you're meeting with somebody else online. The very first tool we are going to take a look at is Zoom, and it's the tool we usually use to have our meetings. One of the big features of it is a very good video quality, really outstanding when it comes to some of the other tools we have tested in the past. When you start using Zoom, the very first time, the system will prompt you to install it on a laptop and desktop to really download it. And then it is a suggested option just because the download version provides you with different tools and resources that are available to you only through the download. If you decide to use the browser, you can still do so, but some of the tools may not work properly, for example, screen sharing. So that's something to consider as you're using the tool. Zoom is available as an application on smartphones and tablets, both Android and iOS systems. So it is broadly available to any type of user. But again, remember about the data charges. And lots of settings are available to you with Zoom. You can go to the settings function in Zoom and enable and disable them. For example, you can do screen sharing, chats, polls, remote control, etc. All of those can be turned on and off based on your preferences. Though one of the nice features about Zoom is call-in option. So you may be in a meeting and somebody's having a hard time getting in or really struggling with their audio. They have an option to get a phone number to call in and listen in and participate in the session through a phone. We have seen some messages that it was disabled on the basic accounts for Zoom because of increased usage and high demand because of COVID-19. But that's something that you may just have to check and see if that's returned or not yet. There has been a lot of coverage in media about Zoom and the privacy settings. So on this slide, we are including a link to Mozilla Foundation article that provides a lot of tips and resources for you to make sure that you stay protected, and also clarifies some of the information that has been shared online. Zoom has different plans, and the very basic one is free. It allows you to have 40-minute meetings. There's no recording for those, but you still have an option to share your screen. You can have up to 100 participants. You can use chats, polls, and remote controls. So those are all available to you with a basic account. If you decide to upgrade, the Pro account includes all the features of the basic account, plus a recording option, and that recording can be done on your own computer or to a cloud. And there's a 24-hour meeting limit, which basically means you can meet with somebody through the entire day and night, and you don't have to stop the meeting. The business version is also a paid version with 300 participants, but one of the outstanding features on that one is that you can download the program and host it on your own server, which may increase your comfort level with the privacy and security of the tool. There's also branding options and other features you can enable, so something definitely to consider as you're making your choices. If you have ever heard about TechSoup Canada, it's an organization that provides discounted software and hardware to nonprofit organizations. They have a special on Zoom where with a $90 admin fee, you can purchase a 50% discounted Zoom license, and that will allow you to have up to 2 hosts with that kind of price. But you can also choose to have more, up to 9 hosts, I believe, and pay a bit extra. So basically what it translates to is $100 per host when it comes to Canadian dollars, plus $90 admin fee. Throughout the session, you will see a lot of screen captures, and that's just to help navigate and explain some of the features of the tools that we are discussing. So the Zoom speaker view, which is usually the very first thing that launches and how you will see your participants in the session. The host or speaker, whoever is talking, will be in the big window, and everybody else will be showing up in the smaller window above. There's a gallery view option that you will be able to click on to change that view. But before we do that, we can click on participants and chat, and the windows for those will open to the right of your video. So you can still see participants, you can still see the shared screen if that's being used, but your tools are on the right side for you to navigate and manage. You can even invite participants directly from Zoom. So if you haven't sent a link or you forgot to send a link to someone, you can still invite them by URL or directly through email invitation. If you switch to the gallery view, the system changes the view so that the videos are like small boxes showing next to each other. So if you have 2, they're just next to each other. If you have more, they will be laid out like a grid in your window, and you can have up to 20 of those at the same time in one window. Once again, if you turn on your participant and chat list, they will be showing up to the right of that video. When it comes to Zoom, you will have all kinds of different tools available. Those tools will disappear when you're in the session or you're not using the screen. They will show up again if you move your mouse over the video. They will pop up, and then you will be able to select what you want to do. The very first one is the microphone option, and that allows you to turn your microphone on and off. Next to it is an arrow pointing up, and that arrow allows you to make different choices and settings for your microphone. So to test your audio and make sure you have the right input, Becomes handy when you have that external camera connected to your desktop. That's where you can check and make sure that it's connected properly. The next one is video camera. Again, you can turn it on and off, and the arrow next to it allows you to do different settings for it. Again, choosing input options if it's an external camera to make sure it's connected properly. As you move along the tools, you will see that there is an option for participants to join. There's a chat feature, an option to share the screen, polling options, recording, and reactions. Many of those can be turned on and off, so you decide as a host and manager of the account which features you want to make available during the meeting. At the end, I can end the meeting as a host. If you're a participant, you will be able to leave the meeting and finish with the session. In case you do something else on your screen, you may notice that your video gets smaller. So if you went to check your email or do something else, that video may have gotten smaller in a small square somewhere on your screen. If you want to bring your tools back, move your mouse over the video and there will be an option with the green arrow. If you click on that, it will exit that minimal video mode and come back to your full Zoom window. If you decide to share your screen on Zoom, you will have different options on how you may want to share. The very first one is to share the desktop, and if you're Microsoft, it's going to be called a screen. And then anyone watching what you're sharing will be able to see anything and everything you have on your desktop. So if you have different applications open and you're jumping between them, you will be able to, the participant will be able to see what you're doing. If you just want to show a specific window, you can choose a Chrome browser or something else that's enabled, and that will allow somebody to see that application or program open without seeing everything else on your screen. So you have options available there. There's also a whiteboard option, which is currently disabled on my computer, but if it was enabled, it will be an option to share as well. And in that case, participants and you could be writing on a whiteboard together. Also notice that at the bottom of the window, there's an option to share computer sound. That's very handy if you're sharing a video with your participants. So for example, you can actually watch YouTube videos together. And in the past, there was an issue with the sound not coming through because it was sort of secondary sound played within the Zoom window. Most of the other programs also struggled with that, so it's not only Zoom. What they have done is that if you enable that feature, the sound will go through the same way my voice is coming through right now, so anyone can hear the sound that comes with the video as well. If you're a host and you want to schedule a meeting, usually what you would do, you would go to zoom.us, you would sign in or create a new account if you don't have one, and you will have quick shortcuts in the top section of the window to schedule a meeting, join a meeting, or host a meeting. And those are very handy for you, but my suggestion is not to use those, but instead to use the full menu on the left, and one of the options there you will see is meetings. The reasons I make that suggestion is because it will allow you what other meetings have been scheduled before. And that way you're not double booking yourself for 2 meetings at the same time. So a very handy feature, very handy tool. Go into your meetings, see what's there, and then schedule a new meeting. Specifically, if you have other users using Zoom at the same time. So you could have different users signing in into one host account and schedule meetings, as long as they don't try to book 2 meetings at the same time. As you go ahead and try to schedule your meeting, you will be taking through different options to select. So of course, you can add your topic and description. You can set the day and time for the meeting, how long it will be. There's also a time zone selection. Keep in mind that if you set up your Zoom for the first time, this will be California time. So I would really suggest you go into your preferences and make sure that your time zone is set properly. Otherwise, it may be very confusing for you and your participants to be getting strange time zone in the invitations. You can also set this as a recurring meeting, which basically means that if you have weekly meetings or bi-weekly meetings, you can set it up and use the same link over and over again for that meeting. As you continue with the options, there's also an option to set up a meeting as a registration required meeting. What that will mean that anyone participating or coming to the session will have to register before even coming to the session. And that registration will take the user through the steps. I'll show the actual screen window a bit later. There's also meeting ID that gets set for each meeting you have, meeting password that you may want to do, and different settings for your video and audio. One thing to note about the audio, automatically it defaults to United States of America, but you can change that in the edit option and switch it to Canadian numbers. Finally, there's an option for additional settings that you can choose. One of the handy tips is if you choose enable join before host, participants coming to your session can come in a bit earlier and they can talk to each other, can see each other if they have microphones or videos enabled. If you don't select that, but choose to have enable waiting room instead, what will happen? Everybody will have to wait until you as a host start the meeting, and only then they will be able to sort of enter the meeting room and participate in the session with you. Because of the privacy and security settings, what we have seen also is that with that enabled waiting room, sometimes you may have to approve participants coming in. And if you have a big group of those coming in, you may need to allow for extra time or disable that feature if you don't have time to enable them to access the room. You hit save. And after you do that, the system provides you with the topic name, the time, and option to add it to your calendars. You will get a specific meeting ID and password for the meeting and a link to send and invite your attendees. Another option in that invite attendees section is copy the invitation. If I click on that, that will open up a window where I can copy all the details, including the ID, the link, even the phone numbers to call for that specific meeting, and I can paste that directly into my calendar and send it out to whoever I want to. If you choose to share the link instead, in the past, the link was shorter and would just end then with the 9-digit numbers. What Zoom has done because of the privacy settings and issues, they have added a password protection and allows you to include or embed the password link directly in the invitation link. So what that means is that if somebody gets that link specifically, they will not be asked to retype the password again. It's already encoded into the link and skips the step for the participants to have to do that. If you chose to have a registration and if somebody clicks on that registration link, what will happen is the system will show a window with the topic, the date, and the description of the event, and then we'll ask somebody to sign up using their first name, last name, and email address. After that happens, the system will send a link to someone, and that link will be customized to that specific user. If the user forgets, gets lost, doesn't get the link or the specific invitation, they can still join the meeting using the meeting ID and password. And the only thing they need to do is to go to zoom.us, click on join meeting, and then type in meeting ID and the password. And that way they will be able to get into your session. But please keep in mind, if the system requires registration, that will still require that step to go through. So the step for registration cannot be skipped if you're just using meeting ID and password. But that can be done fast and bypasses the link sharing if somebody has a hard time accessing the link for that specific meeting. Zoom also has an option to have a plugin for Outlook calendar and Chrome extension to make booking and using Zoom with your calendars a bit easier. Both of those are available directly through Zoom, and they can be added to your Outlook calendar or browser extension at any time. And that wraps up our Zoom information. Again, if you have any questions, please reach out to us, call us, email us with questions you may have. We'll be very happy to answer anything. The next tools we're going to jump into will be Hangouts, Meet, and Chat, and those tools are available from Google. If you have a Gmail account, and then when I say regular Gmail account, that's the personal Gmail account that ends with @gmail.com, you already have Hangouts available to you because the account comes actually with a range of different applications that are available for free. One thing to remember that all users have to have a Gmail account to connect to each other on Hangouts, and that applies specifically to the personal Gmail accounts. So you cannot invite somebody with a Simpatico account or Yahoo account. They have to have a Gmail account to connect through Hangouts. It is a great and quick way to connect because it allows you to send messages, call each other, or do video calls, and you can do those as individuals, one-to-one settings, or as groups. Alpha Plus is using that on a daily basis for our team to connect with each other very quickly. It works very well in Chrome browser because Chrome is also provided by Google. and as an application on mobile devices. Just to note, there are some articles and announcements that it may be phased out in a year or two. So we suggest use it while you can. It's free. It's available with a Gmail account, so worth exploring. If you have a business account, nonprofit account provided by your organization, you will already notice the difference because it's getting replaced with Google Meet. So anytime you want to have a video call, you will actually be taken to Google Meet rather than Google Hangouts. And for chatting, it is Google Chat at this point. So the system is actually being split into two, one to be used for messages and meetings, and one to be used for video calls. There's no clear indication as to what will happen with a regular Gmail accounts. It may go to Duo, but for now, the Hangouts are still working and they're still worth exploring for your needs. When you want to use the Hangouts, you just have to be signed into your Gmail account. And in the URL in your browser, you can just type in hangouts.google.com and you will be taken to the browser application where you can start connecting with some of your friends or colleagues. If you have the Gmail on, you can also use the application launcher, which is the 9 tiny squares or circles next to your icon for your account. Those are usually called waffle or sushi icon, a bit easier to sort of identify where they are. If you click on that, the different applications will pop up, and one of them will be Hangouts. So you just have to look for it, and when you find it, click on it. When you click on it, you are taken to this window, which is basically sort of like a browser launcher for your Hangouts. Notice you have different options available. I can start a new conversation from scratch. So if I click on that, I will just have to type in somebody's email address, or it has history of some of the discussions I had in the past. So those are the users I'm connected to. And you will notice that I may have single users or small group of users that I can be connecting at the same time. So we can have chats and discussions together, sharing information, resources, or having video meetings. When it says phone call, it's one of those features that a lot of users don't know about, that Google Hangouts allows you to call landline numbers. So if I actually clicked phone call, I could call a landline anywhere in Canada and United States for free. So if you're working from home and you need to call your clients, colleagues, or learners, you could go into your Google Hangouts and dial a number and talk to them on the phone. You're doing it through your computer, they're answering through their phone. So if I wanted to make a new connection and click to new conversation, the system will ask me what's the name of the user, what's their email or phone number. The name and email are usually connected. So if somebody has a name that has a Gmail account, I can look by name. Usually Gmail is the best and fastest way for somebody. So in my case, if I type in digitalliteracyeducator@gmail.com, I know this account, I have it, I can type it in and I can connect it. The system will basically say, click to invite to Hangouts. And as I do that, the system will prompt me and say, invitation has been sent. And when that user received that invitation, they will be able to approve it. And from now on, we are talking to each other. So again, reminder, Gmail to Gmail users, but after they connect and sort of accept the invitation, they can chat with each other, they can call each other and video call each other. So if I was doing a video call and I wanted to talk to another user, as soon as I select their name in my list, I have an option to just click on a video icon, and I click on that and the video call launches. Notice the video call will have a chat option within itself. I will be able to turn on and off my microphone and my video. I also can screen share with whoever I'm meeting with. And reminder again, participants can be individuals or groups as well. Going back to that Google Meet option that is now available to businesses and nonprofits, it's also a video call that you can make. And in this case, you just go to meet.google.com. It will launch in your browsers. Once again, you have to be logged into your Gmail account. And when you do that, the application will open up and I will be able to either join a meeting. Again, I could be provided with a number or code to enter to join that meeting, or I can schedule a meeting for myself and then invite others to do that. That type of invitation, if I click to start the meeting and have a video call already in, I can turn on captions. So one of the new features that a lot of new programs are rolling out is ability to close caption the meetings, and there will be live closed captioning. So as we speak, the closed captions will be showing up at the bottom. And the only thing I need to do to invite others is get the link and send the invitation to them. It could be through a link itself. It could be done through a chat or some other option that is easy for me to access. And notice that in Google Meet, because it's a business nonprofit account, you do not have to you're not limited to only Gmail users. You can invite somebody from outside of the Gmail community or Google community, like a Yahoo user, Outlook user, and they can join in. They just follow the link, they request access, and you approve them, and they're in the session with you. One nice feature with the Google integration is Google Calendar option. When you go to your Google Calendar, there's a section for meetings, and the system will ask you, do you want to add conferencing? And if you do, you will have an option to choose Hangouts if it was Hangouts for personal use, or Hangouts Meet if it's an organizational account. And notice with the Hangouts Meet organizational account, it's up to 250 participants that can be in the session. So as soon as I set up that Google Calendar invite, that meeting link gets added to the calendar invite, I can send it to anyone, and the link is already there, so they can just click on the link and join the meeting at a specific time for the meeting to be starting. And that's it for Google. The next step is Skype and Microsoft Teams. So if you have been a Skype user, I haven't used Skype for a while, but if you're a Skype user, there has been some changes on how Skype works. So the personal account can be just accessed through skype.com, and you can use your existing Skype login information or Microsoft account information to sign in. There is a desktop application and online version of Skype that you can be using. And you can call landlines as well. So similar feature to what you provide that you get with Google. And within the US and Canada, the calls are free. If you need to call international numbers, you can. So a very nice feature for those who have families overseas, and they can call directly through Skype as well. It has a chat, calling feature, video calls to others, and group features like many other video meeting tools. And then chat allows you for file sharing, image sharing, and gallery to share pictures. And Meet Now option allows you to share a link, and others can join even without a Skype account. So let's go and jump in and take a quick look at some of those features. If I go into my Skype account and look through different options, one of them is that create your meeting option. So that's the Meet Now option that I can enable. When I click on it, I can click on host a conference call with just one link, click on it again, and what happens, the system puts a link for me for the Skype that I can use, and invitation to share it with others. That link can be just copy pasted into an email, into a chat, and sent out to anyone, and they can follow the link to join me. So if they follow the link, I can launch it directly from Skype as well. They will be taken into a video call. The video features are very similar to the other two tools we have discussed. So once again, microphone, video can be enabled. There's screen sharing. There is a chat built into that call. So you can have that discussion right away. And once again, the person on the receiving end does not have to have a Skype account to join you if they use the Meet Now option. I want to mention that the Skype for Business account that some of you may be familiar with is moving to Microsoft Teams. If you need more information, there's an article about that. But Teams is included in Office 365 package. So if your organization is using Office 365, you very likely already have Teams available to you. And within that, they have the video calling built in. It is not available in a free version that you can get online. So if you just go on to Office 365 and sign up for a free version, the Teams will not be built into that. Something to keep in mind as you're working with external clients, just making sure that you know that they may not have access to the Teams the same way you are used to it. There's a desktop and app application for that. So once again, accessible to different devices, and allows the users or the team to bring together files, chat with each other, work on as a team on a specific project, and add additional applications that may make the teamwork a bit easier and faster. It is often used by organizations to collaborate on projects, and once again, usually bigger organizations have access to those applications, not as often as individuals. You can quickly join the team video meetings. It's actually built into some of the menu options. So the team that's working together can schedule a calendar invite or click on a video and join in. It is free for schools and educational institutions. And that one actually has quite a few more tools that allow teachers to have classes even for their students to use as well. So something to consider. We have heard from some of the parents telling us that Microsoft Teams is being used, but it's a different version than the version that's used for businesses. So keep that in mind, because some of the features you may be expecting may or may not be there. But one of the main things that we were concerned about when looking at this tool was the ability for somebody who does not have Office 365 to access the Teams. And it turns out that there is an option that has been enabled recently that allows guest access. And if you're outside of the organization that's using the package, you can be invited by email and then become a team member and work with the team on a project. But one thing to keep in mind, that's only visible and available if the administrator of the account, not the user, so on the administrative level, which is the IT department for so many of us, they have to enable that in the administrative settings. If it's disabled, that guest access is not available. And once again, if I go to Microsoft Teams, you will see on the left side there are different options for chats, activity, a list of teams that you're a member of, a calendar. One of the options is a call. So if I clicked on that call, in this case, my friend I'm talking to has video disabled. So that's why you just see the person's icon, but we can still see each other. We can turn on and off the microphone, turn on and off the camera. We can share files with each other. We can chat, and we can invite other participants. So again, another tool for you to consider, specifically if you already have access to this tool. If you're starting from scratch, not sure, just again, because of who has and doesn't have access to it. But if you have access to it and your team is willing to try it, I would strongly encourage you to giving it a try as well. There are a few other tools that you may be interested in. Jitsi.org is one of the newer tools that's available. It is free. You don't even have to have an account to start it. You can just start directly in the browser. Has a lot of very nice features, very similar to Zoom or Google Meet, with options for you to join the meeting without password, but then you can lock the meeting with the password so no other users can get in. There's a download version for it. So something to try for sure and sort of see if that works for you. It is a fairly new tool, hasn't been around for long in terms of just general access, but it has been used in the past by organizations and businesses as a download. So they would install it on their own servers, again, for privacy settings. So they would have more control for that. And it is an open source tool, which means that anyone can see the code and then customize the code if necessary. Whereby is another tool that's available. We have heard about this tool from the dev community. In the past, it was sort of known or started as appear.in. So if you have seen or heard us talking about that in the past, appear.in is not available in Canada anymore, but it seems that Whereby is the alternative. And it again provides a very nice clear video calls with a microphone and chat and options enabled and disabled. So something to consider as well. And give it a try and let us know if you like it. So if you have questions about what to choose and why, it's not as easy as just sort of making a decision, Monica likes Zoom, so use Zoom. Most of the times there's other considerations you have to take into account. So one of my number one tips is go and use what your colleagues and learners are using already. And if you take that into account, sometimes that may narrow down your decision. If most of your learners are using Gmail, for example, try to use Gmail tools with them because they already have access to it. If Zoom is something you have access to because your organization is using it, try Zoom. So depending on what somebody else is comfortable with and looking at that as something to consider is very, very important. It reduces the stress level for those who are being exposed to the tools for the first time. Also the purpose. You want to know who will be using it and why, when, how often. That again makes a decision for you. Do you need to record it? All those options are making a decision and helping you decide what will be useful or what may be too much for your specific needs. The functionality, again, as I mentioned, recording, microphone and video only versus other options, what's available to you, what mobile devices you have, what tools you're using, what your learners are using, once again, is important to make sure that the tool is handy and useful to everyone that you're trying to connect with. Costs, of course, will be a very big factor in making your decision. You will notice that we really highlighted some of the low cost or free tools at the beginning and kind of moved into potentially some paid options as well. That's again just because we know that a lot of nonprofit organizations have limited budgets. So trying to look at tools that will be as accessible and affordable to you is important. Security is another factor. So again, depending on your preferences, what you're comfortable with, that will be something to consider. And the ease of use and accessibility in terms of personal versus organizational accounts. It's something that sort of comes out a lot lately, because most of the time we are used to working within organizations. But as we are working from home and trying to connect with external users, your learners, your clients that you may be working with, those lines of organizational versus individual are blurring a bit more. And sometimes some of the firewalls and setups that we have in organizations are restrictive. So some of the existing tools you may have may not be allowing for those direct and easy connections that you're expecting you have with your colleagues within the organization. And that's something to consider as well. And that wraps up the session for today. If you want to learn more, we have other webinars available. Some of them have happened already and there will be more recordings. Some of them are still scheduled to start up. So visit our website to learn more and join us.